Hello, friends. Welcome to Mike Inspires Me, the show about wellness, amazing people, and information to inspire you to take charge of your life and your health. He was recently featured in Men's Health magazine for his amazing health transformation, resulting in losing over 200 pounds. His YouTube video has over 31 million views. In this episode, I interview Vance Hinds, a man who inspires me, and just an all-around, down-to-earth and cool guy. I hope you enjoy it. All right. It says here, it says avoid legal snags by telling people they're being recorded. I better tell you that since you are, after all, an attorney, huh?
Well, hey, I give you permission to record this. So
okay, that's our legal disclaimer, right?
That's right.
All right.
Not only to record it, but to use it at your leisure.
Nice. I appreciate that. What a pleasure. So yeah, hey, I thought I'd just start by telling you how I discovered you, and obviously you had a video that went out that was pretty big hits. I saw it almost. I just checked the stats today, and there's like 31 million views on the DDP stuff. That's
crazy. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And so what happened? One of my friends sent me a link to the video and said, "Hey, check this guy out." Because they do that from time to time. And I said, "Oh, wow!" And then I reached out to you personally, and I said, "Hey, man, we're brothers.
Yeah.
Let's chat." And you friended, and we've been kind of keeping in touch for a little bit. Only known each other for a short time. And I said, "Hey, I said, why don't we chat and talk a little bit about similar experiences, because we're kind of in the same club." And I'm really excited about what you're doing and the stuff you're getting involved in. You're sharing, and you've been sharing since the beginning, which is just incredible.
That was when I started, November 20th of 2017. I had two kind of guiding principles. I didn't know where I was going, but I had kind of two guiding principles, and one was to commit to yes, because I was 475 pounds on November 20th. And, my whole life, I've been heavy, and except since, when I played college, I played football in high school and 1 year at college. So, but after that, pretty much I've been heavy. And, over the years, people have always said, "I'll come walk with you," or let's go lift weights, or let's ride bikes. And I'd always kind of put them off and say no, or poo-poo them, say, "Yeah, we'll do it," but never get around to it. But so this time when I started, I said, if anybody volunteers to help or offer me anything, I was going to commit to yes. And that's what I meant by commit to yes. Get out of your comfort zone, try new things, and just see where this journey takes you. And then the second one was to post everything online on social media, because I wanted to be held accountable. Because all my other weight loss attempts, which there have been many over the years, and I always do well, but eventually fall off. But it's usually just my wife and I doing it, and nobody else knew or didn't know the details that much. And so it was easy to talk myself out of it to quitting, and nobody knew. And so I figured if I put everything online, then just be wide open with everything from the start, then I'd be held accountable, and I'd have to keep going. And those two principles have just blown up and gotten me to that video, to you, to everything. It's been crazy. I don't know where this journey is going to end up. I just keep riding the wave.
Just keep moving forward, right? Yeah,
that's right.
I like that you said about the accountability thing. It's funny and almost ironic. I read you wrote that somewhere, probably in one of your blogs, and I actually literally said the exact same thing. And it's interesting. I didn't learn it right away because I didn't share my journey from the beginning. In fact, I was a little ashamed of myself, and I'm sure we'll talk about that stuff too. But I said eventually, when I started sharing that accountability and that support, and I don't think I realized just how important that was, and it really is.
And the support comes from places you never dreamed of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing, the people that come out and to help you, and friends, relatives,
Yep.
co-workers, just
Yep.
I mean, people are watching that you never thought were watching.
Yeah, that's another interesting one. I have been told the same thing. Sometimes they may not even say something to you, and they're watching and kind of
Yeah,
inspired, but maybe ashamed or afraid to say something. Wow.
yeah, it's been a wild ride.
I can
So,
imagine. I can imagine. Yeah, well, we'll get into that. So let's get a little background real quick. Originally from Texas?
yeah, born and raised in Texas.
Okay.
Almost born and raised in Waxahachie, Texas.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because I saw the name of that and I was like,
uh,
oh my gosh, I don't want to say that word.
no,
Waxahachie.
yeah, we're 30 minutes south of Dallas, and
Yeah, yeah.
I went first through 12th grades in school district here in Waxahachie.
Okay, so this is
So
your home and every
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So this
Wow.
is, except for college and a few years here and there, I've lived basically my whole life here in Waxahachie. And my family's from this county.
Okay. All right, that's really cool. That's so and that's got to be amazing and something we could talk about too is like so you're from this area, people know you, and now you're going around this totally different guy. And have you had experiences where you walk past somebody who and you try even just test to see if they know who you are?
Well, I don't know about tests, but
Yeah.
people are beginning to recognize me that
The
I
restaurant at
know.
the beginning. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like today I was at this. I did a triathlon, my first triathlon,
Yeah.
and I was sitting on the bench waiting to start my swim, and a guy walked up and said, "Are you Vance Hinds?" And
Yeah.
I'm in Keller, which is an hour's drive from Waxahachie. And I said yes. He said, "Well, I'm from Oklahoma. I drove down for this triathlon, and I follow you on Facebook."
Oh,
And
wow.
he's was his second or third triathlon, and he's lost 140 pounds, and he's doing the
Wow.
same journey as us. And
Okay.
he's like a associate minister at a church, and he sat and talked to me about 15 minutes while we were waiting for our chance to get in the pool to start swimming.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah,
So
it's
it's
amazing who
crazy,
you
man.
meet. Yeah, yeah. Well, I maybe I didn't phrase what I was saying right too, and maybe let's see if and it is amazing who will recognize you because of the recognition of and amazingness of what you've done. But I also wondered if there's people who knew you but didn't know you lost weight, and then they see you and they don't realize that it's
Oh,
you.
oh, I'm with you. Yes.
Have you had that happen where somebody is like,
Well, at first, then it takes them a minute sometimes to say,
I know,
I didn't know it was you, until they got close and saw me, and yeah, that happens. So it's been crazy. I've lost for people that don't know, I've lost 211 pounds.
that's amazing.
So
Okay. Yeah. Wow. That is, I mean, there are people who weigh less, adults. I mean, you've already lost a whole adult
yeah,
off your body.
yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy.
I'm amazed when I think about it because even for myself, I was about 209 and I actually put a little back on it through bodybuilding. But when I think about that much, it's like, I don't even know how I even got there. And that's an interesting question because, when you think about it, it's not like it happened overnight. And I'm sure with you said, you
Yeah,
struggled weight, but I mean, you didn't get up to 475 pounds. It took a while, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and when I went to law school, I was between 300 and 330, and that was in the
okay.
early 90s. And uh, oh, we got a dog fight.
Oh,
But
yeah. Well,
Mary's getting her.
that's all right. Yeah.
Between 300 and 330, and then
Wow.
so I fluctuated from there up and down, and then the last 20 years I've been over 400 probably, except for when I'm dieting.
Right.
But
Right.
it's been a while. I'm sure I've pushed 500 or better.
Yeah, so I mean, scales can't weigh us, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when you're that big, I mean, you got to go to the doctor or get a special scale. Or
Yeah.
how about health problems?
Yeah. I
The
mean,
comorbidities, as they say, high blood pressure, sleep
yeah.
apnea, diabetes.
Uh, Almost all of the above. I've never been diagnosed with diabetes. I'm on a CPAP machine, been on one
Yep.
since the 90s. I've been on high blood pressure medicine since the late
Yep.
80s, early 90s.
Yep.
I've got both my knees they tell me are bone on bone. And when before I started this weight loss journey, the orthopedic surgeon told me I qualified for two knee replacements, but he
Oh,
wouldn't
wow.
do it unless I got under 300.
Right.
And so,
Right.
I mean, I've got I think they call it chronic venous insufficiency in my lower legs, which is where the blood doesn't come back up well. So I
I
got
have this.
discoloration in the lower
Oh, you got
leg.
the discoloration? Okay. How about swelling too? Do you get, I have like
Swelling.
edema.
Yeah, I used to get a lot of that, real bad. But since I've
Yep.
lost this weight, the swelling hadn't been as bad. But I've
Yep.
still got the discoloration. Uh, I mean, I've had uh, all kinds of health problems.
Yep.
I mean, from it.
Yep.
Knock on wood, I've never been diagnosed with diabetes. I've been diagnosed hypoglycemic, but not
Oh,
diabetes.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So
Interesting.
yeah,
Well, that's what's great is like, I mean, people talk about weight loss and they think about, the physical aspects. And obviously that's the most apparent, right? They look at you and like, wow, you look great. You got a smile on your face. You're a happy person. And that was the first thing I saw. When I first saw you, I was like, look at his face. I saw the picture on Facebook and I was like, oh, he looks like such a nice guy and he looks so
yeah,
happy and full of life. I could see the life in your face.
yeah.
And that was something. But people don't often think about the things like the health aspect, right? Because that's probably the most important thing. I mean, okay, it's great that, now you can fit in a booth. We were talking about the booth, right? At a restaurant, you can fit in a booth and you can do these other physical things. You can buy clothes at the regular store,
Yeah,
which is a whole
that
other.
was a big day for me. Be able to go to Academy and buy clothes.
Oh my
I always
God.
had to order it online, and
Exactly.
you're stuck with basically T-shirts and
Yep.
you know, and so I was a 6XT
You were
at my
six. Okay.
biggest.
You were bigger. I mean, wow. Yeah, I was about five. So that's wow. How tall are you? You know what I mean?
5'10" is what the doctor
I think
told me. I used to
we're
be
about the same.
almost 5'11", but
Yep. Me too.
guess I've shrunk down to 5'10".
Okay. So
So
we're about the same height. Okay. All right.
yeah,
Interesting.
and I weigh
Yeah.
264 Monday. So thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I I think about some of the aspects that people, I mean, we talked about that. We're in this club together that a lot of people don't realize that, you know, as amazing as this is, there's aspects of it that people don't think about that people take, regular people, normal sized people take for granted, like being able to sit in a chair or in a booth at a restaurant.
Yeah, no, we would. I couldn't sit in a booth. I mean, it's just if I could get in, it'd be too uncomfortable. But
Oh my God. Yeah.
yeah. But there's so much more than just that.
Right.
You know, I've talked about it on other places, but like just taking care of your personal needs. At some point,
I
you get.
couldn't wipe myself.
Yeah,
Is that
that's
what
what
you?
I was about to get to. Yeah, you get to
Yeah.
where you can't. You can't wipe your rear, and
Yep.
they had to have a deal called a bottom buddy, where you put
I
toilet
saw
paper
those
on the
on a
end.
stick, right?
Yeah, to reach, and then in the shower you had to have like a little squeegee on a stick, so you could wash your nether regions and wash your
Yep.
feet and reach your lower legs, and
Yep.
you had to have a shoehorn on a stick, and there was only certain places I could get my shoes on, and only a certain height
Oh,
I could get
that
my
that
shoes
grunt, right?
tied.
When you're
Yeah,
stretching forward and trying to
that's
put
right.
on, and
Yeah.
you literally can't breathe.
No, you can't. And the same thing with buttoning your pants. You've got to try to reach around your belly to button your pants, but when you do that, it
Especially
pushes
if they're
it further.
loud.
So you're fighting. It's just getting dressed is was a struggle in itself, and you get comfortable. And people don't realize that the fear and anxiety of going to strange places and not
Mhm.
knowing if you're going to be able to take care of your personal needs and do those things, or walk out without the bottom buddy. If I didn't have that little bottom buddy, I didn't know how I was going to wipe my ass.
You know, it's funny. I didn't end up buying one of those. I was almost to the point of buying one of those. I ended up pulling my arm out of socket, and I still have
Just
problems in my right
leaning
shoulder.
up against things.
You leaning up or just pulling, like I would literally like try to pull my arm as far as I could, and I
Mhm.
ruined my arm from doing that.
You know,
So
in
yeah.
in my master bath, on both sides of the toilet, the sheetrock's pushed in. For me, either trying to get up off the toilet or trying to reach my rear.
Yep.
It's being that weight, the
Oh.
world's not built for people that weight.
Mm-mm.
I'm an attorney. I've squashed and broke. We have a historic courthouse that's now we've got a new courts building, but they
Yeah.
use a older kind of chairs looking in there, and I've broken two or three of those chairs. One of them just pancaked in the middle of a hearing and couldn't fit in
Oh,
them.
are you kidding me?
No,
In the
no,
middle
the
of a year.
judge got a huge kick out of that. So
Oh,
arms would fall off when I was sitting in them, and
yeah. Yep.
it's the world's not built for people that big, and
Well, but we shouldn't get that big either, right? I mean, that's just. I mean, it, you wonder sometimes. It's like how. I mean, we're seeing more people, unfortunately. That's the sad part, and that's why guys. It's really important for guys like you and me to get out here because it's like, look, there's there's other ways.
yes,
Oh my gosh, I'm sure we could talk for hours about
yeah,
stories that you've had.
absolutely,
I'm glad you have a sense of humor about it because it is humiliating, some of
yeah.
this stuff.
Well, I mean, flying. You talk about
Oh yeah,
guy. I avoided flying because I didn't know if I
me
could
too.
get through the metal detector, and then if I could get my shoes back on, or if I could walk to the terminal and get to the terminal, and then get in the seat in the airplane. And sometimes my boss, when he fly me for work, got to where he's buying me two seats on the plane. And it's getting the extension, and it's just
It's a hassle.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a fun life being that big. But you're right. I mean, there's a lot of when my video went viral, you wouldn't believe how many people reached out to me uh, who are in that situation, and and messaged me on Facebook. It took me 2 months to finally reply to everybody, find time to reply to everybody on
Right.
Facebook.
I think it's eye-opening here. You know, we've seen shows like The Biggest Loser, My 600-Pound Life, and some of these other stories highlighting people, as you mentioned, super morbidly obese. And I remember the first time I heard that, like the word morbidly obese, and I was like, morbid? And
Yeah,
it sounded like a death metal band or something. I'm
that's
like,
right.
morbid obesity.
Yeah,
And, people don't realize, I mean, there's a lot of people out there like that and suffering. And I mean, and that's the thing that, I'm curious about. There's there's the aspect that's inconvenient, right? With the whole everything with daily life, trying to put your shoes, clothing, all that stuff. And then it's this part,
mm-hmm.
how you feel about yourself. Like when you're looking around and you're the biggest guy in the room.
Well, you're invisible to a lot of people. You people don't really talk to you sometimes, and don't give you any credibility. And
So
um,
did you find that? I mean, did you feel
yeah,
like people didn't take you serious because of your size?
yeah, sometimes, yeah,
Even as an attorney. I mean, here you are,
yeah,
you've got a very important and professional position, and because of this, I don't know what you want, disability, what do we want to call it, but this condition that you're in, people judge your ability to be able to do your job or
sure. I mean, your credibility comes with your not just your intelligence, but your demeanor, your presentation, your looks. I mean, it's everybody's judging you at all times, especially if you're looking for women,
Well, we're both married, right? So
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
weird now that I've lost this weight, women are looking me in the eyes and talking to me, and it's a whole different
Ca-
thing.
Calling you
I'm
honey and
not used to it.
sugar.
It's kind of uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah, you don't really know how to take that at first, right? It's kind
Yeah,
of the strange attention because I don't know if you were like me, but sometimes you didn't want attention.
yeah.
You don't want to be noticed and you don't want it, but that's interesting. How's the wife taking all that now? The Mr.
Uh,
Popular here. She's
I
not a
don't know.
jealous lady.
Yeah, well, no,
Yeah,
not really. Sometimes, but not really. Sometimes she is.
yeah.
But she's
Hey,
she's been she's supportive the whole way.
exactly. And that's it. This is an interesting journey. So she knew you when she met you, you were a big man.
Well, she met me in college, so I was probably, uh, I was a few years out of football, so I was probably 250 to 270 when she
Okay,
met.
so yeah,
I was probably about this size when she
this
met.
size, yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So probably more in the norm. And then obviously bloomed through the years. And then but it's stress on her, right? I mean, worrying, am I going to lose my husband?
Well, that's you'd asked me before about suicidal, but
Right.
the uh, and in 2012, I was a big with a law firm and everything,
I
my solo practice.
you do have okay.
I'd go home and drink every night.
Okay.
Kids
Okay.
and
Yep.
money, and in 2012. I couldn't even. There was one day I couldn't walk to the courthouse. I had to stop four
Mm.
times from my car to the courtroom, and I finally went to the doctor that day, and he checked me into the ICU, the hospital immediately, and I had
Mm.
a lot of fluid in my lungs, and he the first diagnosis was pulmonary embolism, and
Oh
uh,
wow.
and so and it was the first day or two they were acting like I wasn't gonna make it. I mean, I had friends, family coming in I hadn't seen in years coming in. My brother asked me if my affairs were in order and all kinds of
Oh my
stuff.
gosh.
And then the fluid started coming off, and so after 5 days in ICU, they finally diagnosed it as um, congestive heart failure. And
Wow.
but they said they couldn't get a really good image. They believed it was in one chamber of the heart that they couldn't
Mm.
see because of my weight. They couldn't
Yep.
get me in certain machines because of my weight. And
Of
that's the
course.
first time you talk about super morbidly obese. That was the first time when I got those records, I had seen the diagnosis super morbidly obese. And so I had very mixed emotion. I've never been super anything, but
Yeah.
yes. So I didn't know. I was glad I was super at something, but morbidly obese was not what I
Oh,
wanted to be super at.
no, certainly don't want to be. And it's weird being famous for that, isn't it? We're both
Yeah,
kind of, you've got that fame. It's like, yeah, I'm famous because I was once really, really big.
yeah, that's right. And then, well, they released me, and so as 2012, I figured I was on borrowed time, and so I didn't drink. And when I walked out of the hospital that day, after I think it was 5 or 6 days, I didn't have another drink of alcohol. I didn't have. I was smoking cigars every day. I didn't have another
Oh, wow.
cigar, but I never
Wow.
lost weight.
Yep.
I just quit drinking, quit smoking
Yep.
cigars, and my goal was I shut down my law practice. Took a job with the county. I took her entry level attorney position, lowest paying one, and my goal was to try to get a pension for my
Hmm.
wife because I knew I wasn't gonna be around. At
Hmm.
475 and
So
congestive heart failure
you'd
at
already hung it up.
52. Yeah, I'd given up. I knew I wasn't going to be around, and I didn't figure I could exercise with a congestive heart failure.
Now
And
you have children too, right?
yeah, they were three kids. At
Yeah.
this time, they were teenagers.
Okay.
They were all in junior high. There might have been one in high school, but they were all younger. 6 years ago, yeah, there would have been one in high school.
Okay.
They're 24, 21, and 19 now. So
Oh
six
yeah,
6 years
got
ago.
all adults now.
Yeah. And so
Nice.
the goal was to get them to 18 to where
Yep.
they could get a job if I'm not here, and to get my wife a pension. So to work for the county, I had to work to vest. I had to work 8 years to get some type of pension, to get the matching and stuff. And so, that's so I shut down everything and I went to work for the county, and those are my two goals. That's all I.
So I mean, you literally believed like there's no way out of this. I'm gonna just end up going, and I might as well just prepare for the worst.
Yes, I mean that's where I was. I mean, I didn't. I mean, I'd already thought I was dying. I was in there on the ICU, and they were, the preacher was coming to talk to me, relatives I hadn't seen in years, because that pulmonary embolism is not a friendly diagnosis, and but so I had made up my mind that those were the true reasons to keep working. And so I just shut down my practice, took the financial hits that came, and just try to get in a position to get my kids out of school and and start working toward that pension. So that's where amazing. Yeah, that's it's a whole different thing when you don't think you have a future at all,
Well, Vance, it's interesting, and thank you for opening up with it, because it obviously has a great ending. Here you are, right, and turn around, but it's your story is more than just weight loss. I mean, it's really a guy who, you had given up. I mean, just like I can't get out of this. There's no way. You didn't think it was possible.
No, not for 6 years. All I did was work, and I went to. I was really working 7 days a week. Because when I shut down the practice, I took a job making $56,000 a year.
Oh wow!
And at the county, prosecuting tickets, doing the Class C's and the Justice Court JP stuff, and it's a big hickey. I've been a 13-year solo practitioner, and but I just wanted that county job and steady income and pension and health benefits, and so on the weekends I started sharpening knives. I've always
I saw that. Yeah, knife sharpener extraordinaire. I saw.
Yeah, I've always had a kind of a fetish toward knives. I've hunted and fished my whole life. And that you see the deer up there. I don't. I've given it up. That's another change I've given up. I'm done killing things too. But you get older, you don't have the heart to kill anything anymore.
Oh no, but you still eat meat, right?
I know I'm a hypocrite, but
no.
Yeah, what I tell people is I'm okay with someone else handling those jobs before it gets to my mouth, and I'm okay with someone else handling those jobs after it leaves my body. I don't have to be a person that handles the product front and back. One of those. My whole part of the food chain is from here to here.
That's right.
And I'm okay with paying some money and letting someone else do it.
Exactly.
If they don't have a problem with doing it, then
exactly. Oh, that's funny.
But I forget what I was talking about.
Well, we were starting to talk about, just the transition, as you got into this, county job, and, you were already preparing, like, this is it.
Yeah. And I needed a cash job. I needed 56,000 wasn't gonna make it. I needed some kind of extra money on the side, so I was sharpening knives at gun shows and sharpening knives at restaurants. I'd go after hours at night and and I was doing anything I could to kind of raise money because, you know, I never did declare bankruptcy, but I slowly paid off all my bills, and I still owe Uncle Sammy a little bit, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to get him paid off this year, I think, and so I think at the end of this year I'll be done. You know, I think I'll be back on good footing again.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tell you, you can think a lot clearer too when you feel a little better physically and mentally, and take care of some of these things.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I had a similar experience. I went through financial struggles too. I did actually have bankruptcies, and it wasn't until I started taking care of the other areas of my life, the health and things and the mental stuff, that I started to get better even financially too. So it's
It
interesting.
snowballs. Everything in your life snowballs.
Yeah.
It's been since I started this weight loss. I mean, everything in the business, everything. I've gotten promotions. It's been
Cool.
crazy.
Like
everything
a windfall.
just snowballed. Yeah.
It's like winning the lottery. Somebody told me that. It's like you won the lottery. And I said, you know something? I would rather have this than millions of dollars. $1 million would be nice too, but
Hey, with that comes there's nothing free in this world. If you win the lottery, you're going to have a whole different set of problems. There ain't nothing free in this world.
That's true.
You just be happy with what you got, and
I think
good things come.
Yeah, and I think that's a good perspective, because you really kind of, before you take care of yourself, you're just kind of taking care of everyone else. And now that you kind of focus on yourself, it does give you a little different perspective of what's important, simple things. I love seeing your posts when you're putting stuff out there about, I'm going and doing this race and this. And so many guys like us, you never would see posts like that before, doing stuff for you.
Yeah, no.
Did it feel weird at first? I mean, did you feel selfish or
absolutely?
focused?
We became empty nesters.
Yep.
This in the past year or two, and it's difficult to change from the mindset that you're going to do things for you versus do things for everybody else. And people around you. Not only does it change your life, but it changes everybody's life. Like the type of food they eat, the type of things they do, the family events, everything is built around food and social events. And you doing this crimps or improves or causes problems. It's like a ripple effect in the water that and there's going to be problems and pushback all along the way.
Oh yeah, have a little because you've earned it, right?
Yeah,
you
that's
go ahead, have an extra slice of pie. You earned it.
That's right.
You're like, I didn't work my ass off to get here.
No, I agree. So,
but it's amazing what people say, right? I mean, they think it's like, oh, I don't think people really understand, the level of commitment that you have to get there and what it takes, and it's there are things that you had to learn to kind of change, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I find like I didn't stop loving the same things that got me fat in the first place. I still love them.
Yes.
And I imagine you've had points like me. Getting from where you were to where you are today wasn't a straight line, was it?
No. There's ups and downs. There's cravings. You fall off. I've been telling people, you got the rest of your life to lose this weight. You gained it your whole life. You got the rest of your life to lose it. And if you slip up, or if you have a bad day, or if you fall off, that's just one day. Kick some. Do what my dog Fifi does here, man. I got an English bulldog. Yeah, I was telling her, kick some grass on that shit and walk away, Yeah, so that's all you got to do. Just do what Fifi does.
Exactly. I like that. I gotta have to remember that one. Yeah, you have to get a little shot of her later on.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I still binge.
yeah. We all do.
Actually,
I did today after my triathlon. I did before the triathlon. I don't know how my weigh-in tomorrow is going to be.
yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I likened it like this. You think of your health like a piggy bank, and if every day you're depositing in it, just say you ate your broccoli, okay, clink. You did your triathlon today, clink. You put in money, and then you I don't know what did you binge on today? You mind telling
Well,
me?
no, I had
Yeah,
usually I eat just 3 meals a day and kind of
yeah.
portion control, but it was no cow bars. I mean, they were healthy food, but I ate,
Oh, I love those.
yeah, 2 or 3 no cow bars and ate a bunch of mixed nuts after the race, and then I had a bag of Benito's chips with my Ann's health food sandwich, chicken salad sandwich today. So I try to stay away from nuts and chips
Okay.
and bread because I know that I binge on those things, and I know that they put they stop my. I don't gain weight when I eat those things. So I mean I don't lose weight on the
Yeah, right,
days
right.
that I eat those things. So
I know you could
I
just
try.
if you just put them in front of you too, if you're like me, and it's like you automatically feel, I think I just put on a few pounds looking at
Yeah,
them,
that's
it's
right.
just, oh
But I
my
can't.
gosh.
If I start eating nuts, I can't. If they're there, I can't stop eating them.
You like
I
nuts,
just
yeah.
think about them all the time. So
They're
I
so
figured out
good,
I just
yeah.
got to eat them to get rid of them.
That's right. Yeah, I saw Sanford and Son like that. I don't know if you watched that show back in the day, but there was one where Lamont was trying to go and get rid of eating pork, and so his father was in the kitchen stuffing his face full of the bacon. He's like, "What you doing?" He's like, "I'm getting rid of the pig."
Yeah, you got to get rid of it. Try.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, you got a great sense of humor about it, and you've got to, right? I mean, it's this whole thing. If you take life too serious and what we're doing too serious, because it becomes boring after a while, and it's hard work.
Yeah,
It's hard work.
we used to say fishing that you can't abuse rule number 5. You can't take this shit too serious. And
Exactly.
so we don't know what rules 1 through 4 are, but we know what rule number 5 is. Yeah,
Oh,
you can't, but they can't abuse it.
oh my gosh. You
Yeah.
should be up on stage. We should get you up there with Bert there, huh?
Man, those guys are they really hang it all out there for everybody when they get up there all by themselves with a mic.
Oh my gosh, it's one thing. It's different, isn't it, when you're doing
Yeah,
stuff like that? So yeah, and that's an interesting segue. So we've talked a lot about, sort of that whole the past and where things are kind of going down. So maybe this is a kind of good time. So at some point, you're like, all right, I got to do something. So you woke
yeah,
up at some point, right? So you had already given up. What happened in between where you finally said, all right, you know what? Screw this.
yeah.
I'm going to just try to do it.
Well, after I didn't like the cardiologist in the hospital that gave me the diagnosis. I didn't like him personally, and I never did go to him after I left the hospital. I just went to work, and I figured I'd work till I died, and. And 5 or 6 years went by, and I was still working, and I figured out that every time I took this naproxen, I was taking these prescription strength naproxen pills. It's prescription strength ibuprofen. It's an NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. Um, I figured out every time, and I was eating them a lot back when I went into the hospital for my knees because my knees were hurting me so much.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that would really relieve the knee pain, those prescription strength naproxen. And so when I got in the hospital, they took me off of those. And I began to think about it, and I started noticing that every time I took them, that's when I started getting that fluid retention.
Mm.
And so I began to think that the fluid retention was from the naproxen and not the heart. Side effect, no doctors ever agreed with me on this or
Mm-hmm.
supported my hypothesis, but
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that in my heart. And so I quit taking it, and I quit having those fluid in the lungs feelings, the drowning kind of feeling, and I just quit taking it. I just
Yep.
stopped, and so a few years went by, and finally I decided to go get my heart checked out. So I found a cardiologist, and I went up there, and they run me through two days of tests, and he come back and said my heart was normal. Basically, he said that there's some small defects, but nothing that alarms him. He didn't see a problem with me.
Was it thickened? The walls of the
I
heart?
think a little bit thick, and that they diagnosed me as having the walls being thick back in my 30s or something. I mean, I've had that. They told me I was going to die young back in my 30s.
They say because I had the same thing. What big people like that? It's almost like my doctor said that heart is like a bodybuilder. It's having to work that much harder to pump blood to this massive amount of flesh.
Yeah. And that some cardiologist back in my 30s told me it was in the 90s, told me you got a thickening of the heart, and if you don't do something, you're gonna die young back in. So I just I figured that was a done deal. And but the after that I left the cardiologist, I still didn't lose weight, do anything, but it made me feel better, but he still didn't agree with my naproxen theory. And so so I was rocking along. So I went to my orthopedic, and had my knees checked out, and that's when he told me I qualified for 2 knee replacements, but he wouldn't do it because of my weight. And so I was still desperate. But to answer your question, this rocks us up to November of 2017. I'm sitting on my couch. I'd been listening to Joe Rogan's podcast and listening to Bert Kreischer's podcast. They just finished the Sober October challenge, where Bert has to stay sober for the month of October, and Joe Rogan couldn't smoke any weed for the month of October. And then Joe Rogan, Ari Shaffir, Tom Segura, and Bert Kreischer all had to do 14 hot yoga sessions in that month. And so, they all these comedians, they had a great month, and it was funny, and they all made it. They all did the hot yoga. They all stayed sober, and then they had a show in November where they were all together, and they were giving Bert a hard time. I mean, they were just really messing with him, and Bert kept bragging that he had the Mickey Mantle gene, and he could do anything. And he said that he could run a half marathon. And so by the end of the show, they were drinking and smoking weed during the show. And by the end of the show, he was, I don't know, it was 2.5 weeks out after the show was the marathon. So I forgot about it. And then I'm getting up one Sunday morning. I'm in my chair drinking my coffee, and I'm looking at my Instagram, and I come across Bert's post, this video of him finishing the St. Pete's half marathon on 2.5 weeks notice. And so I'm sitting in the chair and I'm thinking, if that guy can do that, his whole persona is a big partier animal, and if he can do that, there's something I can do. And so that's when I made the video and said, Bert, you've inspired me. I was sitting in the chair that Sunday morning, and I posted it and tagged Bert and all 4 of those comedians. And then that night, Bert Kreischer, I think, replied and tagged Tom Segura and said, "Changing lives." But he was joking. And so that got me excited. And
interesting, yeah.
And then so the next morning, I got up and weighed myself on the I've got a talking scale. I was in my underwear that Monday morning, November 20th.
Did it scream at you?
Yeah, 475.
Wow.
So that was the starting weight, and I'm there in my underwear, and I posted it on all my social media. My wife was mad because she thought I was going to get fired. Put myself out there in my underwear like that, and um, and so this is it. This is where I'm starting.
But it was real. I think that's what, people, I mean, what vulnerable,
Yeah,
but real. It's like, you know what? This is what it is, man. I'm 475 pounds. I got nothing to lose at this point other than the weight.
yeah. I'd already lost. We ended up losing our house to foreclosure back then,
Oh,
and
did you? Wow.
yeah, and we moved into a rent house, and I took the lowest paying job at the DA's office, and I was
Right.
and I was sharpening knives at gun shows, working 7 days a week, and I mean, what did I have else to lose? Or what?
Yeah.
I didn't. I mean, this is where I'm at. This is it. So
Wow. I'm just letting that sink in because different story, but I can relate in some ways. But at the same time, too, it just when you hear it, I mean, when you say it, I mean, isn't it weird? It's almost surreal when you talk about it because it's you, but
yeah,
here you are sitting here today, like this. There's still Vance here, but
yeah.
then there's like this whole other guy. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you feel that way. Like do you ever feel separate from the old guy that you were? I mean, you had to change, right, in some ways. Or do you feel that you're the same exact guy?
I still feel like I'm the same exact guy. I've always been able to kind of make up my mind, and do things. I've always been hard headed. I mean,
But you had to change some habits, right? I mean, you had
yeah,
to
no, I
change
definitely changed
some
habits, and
like,
that's what we were talking about earlier. I mean, you
yeah,
change everything in your life when you commit to this. The decisions you made to get you to that 475. Um, you don't ever get to go back to making those decisions. I mean, if you want to be 475, then go back and making those, then start making those decisions again. Because I mean, if you want to be different, you've got to do something different.
you can't sit back and wait for this, right?
No,
Right.
I mean, and so, um, I just know that I've got to make different decisions. I've got to do things differently, and I've got to get to work. That's all I can say. I just got to get it done.
So, in terms of some of those things, are you a stress eater? Do you?
Absolutely. I
Okay,
ate a
so
bunch before. I ate a whole bag of nuts before this triathlon.
well, that might have helped in some ways too to give you a
Yeah,
little energy. I mean,
yeah, the big old. But
but
I mixed a big
yeah.
bag to have after the race, and I ate it all the night before
Oh,
the
so
race.
good. They're
You
so
know.
good. So, what do you put in it? What do you eat? Like walnuts, peanuts? What are you eating?
Yeah.
Just
Well, I
bunch of.
had pecans,
Mm,
mixed nuts, cashews,
yeah,
almonds, raisins, and I think that's it. It was good. I
yeah,
wish I'd put
yeah.
some Brazil nuts
Oh,
in
those are
there.
good.
That's
Yeah, they're so
good.
big and just I don't
Yeah,
know, juicy. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Those are good.
they're expensive too. I
They
don't know
are.
if you.
That's why we didn't get them. Nine
we
dollars for the bag, ten
we got
bucks.
a like a discount. You probably got a. I don't know if you got down where you are, kind of those thrift stores. Do you guys have like Big Lots or anything like that down that
Yeah,
way or?
we
Yeah, we
got
got another chain up here. They sell nuts sometimes. That's where I'll buy mine. I'll go get a bag of say walnuts or something for 4.99 a pound. But I go to the grocery store, holy mackerel. And that's an interesting thing. And you probably heard people say this. They say, well, in order to eat healthy, it costs more.
well, it does. I mean, y'all aren't. Well, I don't know. You was about to
Sure.
finish that. I didn't mean to cut you
Well,
off.
no. I agree. And I'm glad you agree. It is true. But there's two things I'd say to that. Your health is an investment in your future, and it's a different way of thinking. If it is intact, more expensive, right? I mean, you could put garbage gas in your car and garbage oil in your car, and what are you going to get? You're going to get problems with your car, right? And the same thing with your body. The other thing is, I don't know if you're finding this, but well, if you're not 475 pounds anymore, you're not eating a 475-pound volume of food.
That's right. We don't even, generally speaking, we don't even look at the prices of the food anymore. We pay $5 for a dozen eggs, where you can get them, $1 or $2, but we get the organic.
Yep.
The pasture raised, it's been fed non-GMO food, organic food, and it's. But you're right, you don't eat as much. But see, DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, he really believes that the weight obesity problem is related to genetically modified foods. He thinks that the foods we are eating, our bodies, it's an inflammation to the foods. And so, he made me watch Genetic Roulette, Food Inc., and Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, and The Resurrection of Jake the Snake before he'd work with me. And basically, I think it's either Genetic Roulette or Food Inc., but one of those two talks about there's 3 crops that they've been able to genetically modify successfully: corn, soy, and wheat. And like in corn, they've added pesticides to it to kill certain bugs, and I think they've made them all 3 resistant to Roundup, so that they're spraying Roundup just on this stuff, to kill all the other stuff. And he says that we don't know what effect that's having on us long term. And so his argument is, don't eat anything with soy, wheat, or corn that's either made with it or fed it to the animals, and eat the animals it's been fed to, or a product of that animal, like milk or eggs. So that leaves you eating organic, non-GMO foods and vegan type stuff. And like we eat grass-fed. I buy a lot of our meats from Butcher Box. It's grass-fed, and we try to. Of course, we don't do it all the time, but we try to eat as natural and non-processed foods as we can eat. And
I'm hearing hints from you of what I'm hearing a lot of nutritionists say: trying to eat more of a whole foods, and not necessarily vegetarian, but more plant-based stuff. It sounds like. Do you get proteins from plant-based, like lentils, anything like that? Do you do? Or
no, we still do. We still do the meats and the proteins. Yep. I try to eat 4 to 6 ounces of some type of grass-fed protein with lunch and dinner. So we still eat the meat. The vegetarian, the vegan and stuff, it doesn't keep me satiated as long as it seems. I get hungry later, and I work. At least it's worked so far on this journey, is to eat a little protein with a lot of the green vegetables or some type of natural vegetables.
Yep, that's a perfect example. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think a lot of people, and I'm sure you get people approaching you too, think that there's like this one way. And that's what I mentioned earlier, right? Your story is going to be different than my story, and what works for you may not work for me, and vice versa, right? And you got to go with how you feel in your body, in order to be able to see any change. And that's interesting.
And I'll tell you something else on the price. And so we just, you don't eat as much, but DDP, he always tells a story that he says, we don't know what they're putting in those foods. Like, he'll ask you. I don't know. I'm not going to get his story direct.
Yeah.
Perfect, but it's something like, pizza? What did a Papa John's pizza cost in 1990?
Right.
It's $7.99. And then what did it cost today? $6.99.
Right.
How in the hell are they doing that? What are they putting in that sucker?
Or taken out of it. And so, you know
Yeah,
what it is that I'm finding, you'll probably see a lot of food today, I call food like substances. Like
yeah,
it can fill your stomach. Our bodies can, I'd hate to say digest it, but it doesn't immediately make us sick most of the time. And
yeah,
then it's what they can get away with as cheap as possible in order to be able to sell it and make that bottom line,
yeah, yeah.
without any concern for your health.
That's right. Well, I mean, it's a catch-22. They've got to be able to feed the masses. They've
But at
got
what
to.
expense, right?
That's right, at our expense. And so if it's a catch-22. How do you feed all the masses? So people are going to opt for that 99-cent menu. They're going to opt for the cheapest
Yep.
processed food at the grocery store. Now, sometimes I walk through the grocery store and the whole thing just kind of feels uh, kind of surreal. You can see the people all eating processed food, and you just kind of get a vibe from it now. It's a whole weird deal.
It is weird, and it's interesting. I heard somebody say basically everything in a grocery store is the same thing, just repackaged with different flavorings and seasonings. It's all either wheat or corn, and then they add sugar or they add this and
Yeah,
that, and they just put it in a different form and you eat it. I mean, it's sad because like you're in Texas, and you probably got a lot of Mexican food down there, and I love chips and salsa, right?
yeah,
And then I discovered those Benitos. And
yeah,
I'm like, okay, this changed the whole game. It's like,
yeah.
okay, because I mean, unfortunately, I still don't mind the taste of the corn, but I try not to eat it like you. It's like sometimes though, if it's there, it's,
Yeah.
so how's it? I mean, so you brought up something a little bit earlier too. You touched on a subject about going to events, right? And how that had to change. You go to somebody invites you out to happy hour or, or whatever else, and all of a sudden there's a spread of just those delectable whatever's. It doesn't matter what it is, and it's just all right there, and you got to show some restraint,
Well, absolutely.
but have some
But
balance.
mhm. Well, it's difficult. I mean, you try to stick to your plan, but you stick with salads and veggies and different things when you go out. But I try to stay away from the salad dressings because that's what they
Yeah,
usually get you is those damn salad dressings. But
yeah.
the one thing about making it public is that everybody knows it now.
They got their
And
eyes on you.
yeah, and so it's a it's different now. But
Yeah.
uh, we my wife and I we mainly only eat at a few restaurants that we feel safe at eating at. Eating out's kind of the hardest
Yep.
problem because trying to find I tell people that if you want trash 99-cent
Hmm.
whatever, it's on every corner. But if
Yep.
you want something healthy, you're going to have to drive 2 counties over and swim a river and pay 4 times as much.
Yep.
It's hard to find a place that's organic and meets all
Yep.
our nutrition and dietary guidelines just off the drop of a hat. So we've got about 3 restaurants that we regularly eat at when we go out here in town, and 3 or 4, and then most of the time we just eat at home.
Yeah. Which is, they say, the best, right? I mean, obviously, one, because it helps with the budget, too. Because,
Yeah,
you know, I find my wife, we got this little tradition. We were eating out like once a week, getting whatever. And then it's like, but you add that up and what you could have bought the food for. And it's like,
yeah,
and I could make it home healthier. I know what's in it.
That's right.
So your wife's kind of keeping to the same sort of what you're doing too in terms of eating. You don't eat separate
No, she's
or
doing the same thing. She's doing the DDPY. I mean, we do some different exercises, but
right.
she's lost 30 pounds, 31
Oh,
pounds. Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, she's looking great. She's
So
doing
that's
good.
important, having your spouse do that. It's interesting. I wrote an article because my wife and I don't actually always eat the same meals, and it's that can be challenging. You know, if
Yeah,
she likes her Chips Ahoy or whatever else she's eating, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna have my apple.
yeah, that's right. Well,
But
it's hard if y'all are doing the two different meals. I mean, really hard on the long term because a lot of times she does most of the cooking, and
yep,
then she don't want to cook two meals, and so a
that's
lot
how
of
I
times
ended up doing my own.
I got to eat whatever she cooks, or do it myself, one or the other.
Right, right.
So it's hard to stay on that commitment if
Right.
y'all aren't on the same page. It really is.
It does make it challenging. I've managed to do it, and I've explained some of the things that I do. And the other thing for me is, at least it like you, it influences my wife too. She actually does eat better, but we're still kind of divergent, probably much more than you two are. But I think that's great for you because it makes it a lot easier day to day. You don't have to worry about, okay, what am I going to eat for
Yeah.
dinner tonight? So cool. That's interesting. So we came up to this whole point and we talked about, so now you've gotten the attention of Bert and DDP reached out to you. What's happening now? So, it's interesting. You and I chatted a little bit about those challenges and how they would rib on Bert and stuff. And I told you that Mr. Rogan made a comment about thinking that fat shaming is motivational.
We
Hey,
talked
I'm
about
misquoting
this.
him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would disagree. I don't know if he meant that as a joke or not, but the uh, people with weight problems are they already have a lot of insecurities or a lot of anguish or you know fears and concerns, and I never think that um, fat shaming is motivational. I think it should be supportive and understanding. And I told somebody that I'm a lot more uh, empathetic. I have a lot more sympathy and empathy toward people now that I've lost the weight and I've
Right.
realized what I've gained back. And um,
It's like a
you know,
blessing.
yeah, and it's nobody should be shamed, and as well as I do that a lot of people, you can't stop eating. That craving and hunger is so strong, and I really think it's another one of my personal theories that it's based on the food you're eating that
Yeah.
causes you the cravings. And until you change the food you're eating, you're going to continue, and you can. It's something that's just easily turned off. The cravings are so overpowering.
That's a great thing you're bringing up there because I think people see it as, well, just do this or just stop putting so much in your mouth and it's like, unless you're in our shoes, you have no
Yeah,
idea the grip it has around you.
absolutely, absolutely. I don't. It's not. What when I have those cravings, and that's why I try not to binge, and I try not to eat certain things. Like I try to avoid all fruits because I know that I'll
Really?
crave them
Mhm.
and binge them. And
Okay.
like nuts, I'm a little stricter on fruit than I am on nuts.
Okay.
I stick kind of with meat and green veggies and different
Okay.
veggies and things, but
Yep.
uh, the if the I try to. avoid anything that I know is going to make me crave it later.
Yeah.
And if I binge and fall off, and I don't stick with it, of course, but that's my goal. That I really want to figure out how to keep those cravings from happening. My goal is just to get my diet to where it's keeps me full, and then doesn't cause me those just intense cravings.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of tweaking it, and I want to figure out how to do that. And I really want that to be kind of my next research and goal.
Okay. I would love to know that too, because I'll be honest, in my experience, and I'm several years out, they haven't gone away for me. And I've just learned behaviors to get around it. Is just all I've done. I at one point I said, well, I beat it. And then I realized I didn't beat it. And then I said, okay, I guess I need to do other things to replace those behaviors. And maybe I look at it a little simplistic too, but for me, and I don't want to paint a bleak picture, but I don't feel like they go away. Maybe they do. I liken it like any other addiction. Sometimes I think, because I've seen the patterns of behavior, and maybe mine's different, like alcoholism or drug use. Like you, I was eating for stress and for whatever else and fulfilling a void. And sometimes if it's cravings too, it's kind of the same thing. I have trigger foods, and I think that's what it sounds like you're talking about. You eat the fruit, it's triggering you.
Yeah.
There's something definitely real about that. How do you change that if that neural pathway is already built? I'd be curious too. If you do find, please share, because maybe there is, and maybe we could come out with some multi-million-dollar. That's big. That's big.
And if I stick to my 3 meals a day on routine, and I eat just to keep my proportions down, and the right food, I generally don't have those cravings, But if I stress, or if I have something I'm not supposed to eat, or if I eat too much, then I start a yo-yo effect that it takes me days to get it back to where I'm back on my, like this triathlon. It's going to take me a few days to get back to where I'm eating just my 3 meals a day again.
Yep. But you don't let it. I mean, obviously, you've had these kind of twists and turns, but the consistent thing you have, and I think this is when people ask about, and you probably get asked, what's your secret?
Yeah.
You just don't give up.
That's right. Kick some grass on it.
Exactly. Kick some grass. I'm going to write this down. I'm going to hang that one up. Kick some grass. Yeah, because at you're going to continue. You're going to screw up. It's just, we're humans. We're not perfect. Yeah. And I think people they expect that it's just like, and so that's where people I see, and the people I've known, that's where they give up.
Mm-hmm. That's right. You feel like you've let yourself down. You've let your friends down. You feel like you've just ruined it, because you were going to change your life, and you feel like all this pressure's on you, and then once you screw up, say, I knew, because when you started, you kind of had that doubt in the back of your mind whether you could do it or not, and then when you screw up, you've given yourself an excuse just to go back to your old ways.
Right.
And this time I don't have that doubt in the back of my mind. This time I know I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there, and it's going to take me a while, and there's going to be ups and downs, but I know I'm going to get there.
That's key too. No, yeah, that's interesting that you've talked about this. We got some interesting parallels, and maybe that's what the key is here, is that in order for people to get to where you and I are, there are certain things that you definitely have to do here in the brain in order to get yourself there. And you're not letting yourself have any way out.
No.
You set it up so that you've got this group of people who are watching you. You set it up that you've got these set of principles that you adhere to, and a schedule and everything else. And you set with a mindset that says, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a choice. I'm going to do it.
You, I mean, technically you do have a choice, but you're setting yourself not. I mean, you could say, well, screw it. I don't want to do this anymore. But why would you, right? Because you're in a place now. It's like, this is a much better life than so maybe to you, it's like, no, there's no choice here. I'm never going to go back to this old way.
Shit, I got a guy from Connecticut calling and interviewing me that I never would have met before, you know?
That's right.
I had a
Yeah.
guy from Great Britain call me. I had a guy I got on a Canadian radio. Hell, I was Men's Health, January 24th, 2019. They did 31 days in January. They did a transformation story each day. And so I'm January 24th, 2019. If you go to their website,
Yep.
and look up my name, you'll see me. It's like Miss February Playboy. I'm January 24th, 2019. They can never take that away from me. That's right. Yeah, that's right. I'm January Men's Health, January 24th, 2019.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. That is cool, and it is nice because those rewards are you can't put a value on that, because now it's like all these people are looking up to you like this idol, like you're this
like I know what I'm doing,
Yeah. You ever feel like that? It's like, well, I'm just kind of winging it.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just shit. I'm just doing what DDP tells me if I can. He gets mad. DDP didn't want me to do this triathlon. Yeah, so he's probably mad at me. So
but you know what? But sometimes you gotta figure it on your own path. And if you do find that it wasn't the right thing to do, then you'll figure that out, right? I mean, at some point you got to be able to take the wheel of your own, too. So that's funny. All right, so the whole thing, the Bert Kreischer, how do you say his last name?
I think it's Kreischer.
Kreischer. Okay, I've seen, yeah, and so you got his attention. Joe mentioned you, right? Joe Rogan mentioned.
He's talked about me. Yeah,
that's crazy. I think I heard on one of his shows. I think I did hear him mention that too. And so it's like, all right, now you got all this. Now you got some attention. It's like, all right, now I really gotta, get this going. And so you ended up, DDP hooked up with you. You had no idea who this dude was.
He January 1st of 18, he reached out to me. He replied on my Twitter, said if you want some, he said if you want some real guidance, bro, DM me. Yep. And I didn't know who he was, and so I sent back a short direct message to him and said I'm interested. And I didn't know what he was or what he was talking about, who he was, and then people on that comment started saying, "Man, if DDP's reaching out to you, you'd be a fool not to accept his help. And this guy's a fitness guru. You need to listen to him." And so I went back and wrote him a long note, and then he called me he gave me his number. I called him, and he made me watch those movies I mentioned, and then he started. He started making me started doing this DDP yoga program, DDPY, and that really is what changed my life around. Because he got me eating. Before I was doing low carb. I'd done what I'd always done, low carb and walk and aqua aerobics. But he got me doing the DDPY and eating. Is DDPY nutrition, which is the all natural, non-processed, organic, non-GMO, that macro type style eating. So he got me eating this way. He got me doing his DDPY, and then that has been the biggest change to my life, because that gave me the physical ability to do things that I could never do before. I had the flexibility, I had the strength. Yep. I'll tell you, I blame him for one of my recent injuries. and he doesn't even know it yet. And I want to jump on him next time I see him.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
hopefully he'll watch this one too. We'll get him
yeah,
there.
and so I'll tell you, we talked about having to wash your feet with a squeegee on a stick.
Yeah.
Now, well, I've got a little bitty shower in this rent house. I barely fit in there. And now I can bend over and wash my feet with both hands with a bar of soap. And so the other day I was in the shower and I'd washed my leg and one foot, my left foot. And then I went and washed my leg and my right foot, and I picked up my heel and I took my left hand and washed the front under my foot and between my toes. And then I picked up I picked up my toes and I picked up my heel and bent over with my left hand and was watching the underside of my left foot, and my foot slipped out from under me, and my top of my head hit the damn edge of the shower, and there ain't no way in hell I'd have ever been in that position if it wasn't for DDP, and so it's his fault that I busted my ass in my shower.
He didn't have any disclaimers here, right? About
be careful washing the bottom of your feet in the shower once you start DDP.
Gosh.
So he doesn't even know it yet. I'm going to jump on him next time I see him.
That's so crazy. Oh my gosh. That's yeah. Isn't that weird? Like the stuff that I think, again, that people take for granted, being able to wash your own feet, like that. And who would have known that you end up on your.
Yeah, busted my ass in there. And I'm telling you, there's no way I'd ever hit head first in the shower ever in my life.
Oh my gosh.
So I used to have to beg my wife and my daughter, my middle daughter, to cut my toenails. I couldn't reach my toes. And I was always...
I'm sure they were thrilled to do that too, right?
My wife hated it. And I'd have to beg her for a long time. My daughter would do it, but I always felt bad about asking her, but she'd jump down there and do it. But I can cut my own toenails now, I reach everything. Hell, it's unbelievable, man.
That's the stuff that I think guys like us, we're the only ones. It's interesting. I know a lot of people. I have friends who are fitness professionals, and I've talked to a couple of them. I remember I was talking to one of them. He said, I have no idea. Like they're influencing and they're inspiring all these people who, to lose weight and working with people, and yet they've never been in our shoes. They have no idea what it's like. Like I remember one of my friends said to me, he goes, I don't understand how somebody could eat an entire package of Oreos. And I'm like, I can.
Every day,
Yeah. And darn those dang peanut butter filled Oreos, by the way. That's my.
Yeah. No, I agree. Those guys are, and they keep pushing us.
Yeah.
And see, I haven't hired a personal trainer this whole journey, because many times I'd hire one, start, and they'd push me to where I'd get hurt, or push me till I got discouraged, or push me till I got tired of them yelling at me, and I just quit. I said, hell with this. And they don't understand the struggle, and and that's really what I like about DDPY, the program, is that he starts almost with a premise that you're an old broken down professional wrestler and can't do anything, and he teaches you step by step, put your hand here, use a chair, it's starts from the very basic moves, and that's the best thing about the program. One of the great things about the program.
So it doesn't get you discouraged from the beginning.
No. And it's telling you, do it, make it your own, cheat until you don't have to cheat anymore, use chairs, use blocks. His whole rebuild series takes you, he's got 2 or 3 exercises if you're bedridden, just to get you stretching, to get you starting to try to get out of bed. Then he's got some exercises if you're in a chair, get your arms and legs strong enough in your back to get you to stand up out of a chair. And then he's got he starts from the scratch. And then he's got exercises once he's got you up to start working you toward the ground using a chair, and getting your legs strong enough to get you up and down off the ground. I'm telling you, his rebuild series it presumes that you can't do anything. I mean, you're bedridden at the start.
That's interesting. Well, he ought to have you do some testimonials for him, huh? And get you in on the payroll with what he's doing, huh? Because it sounds like, I mean, you've had personal experience with it, and and you're, one of the, a big star from it now. It's like, wow, not only does this, you know, it works. It can change lives. I mean, there's always a disclaimer. You have to be willing. I think that's the other thing too. That,
You got to put
we
in the
can't
work.
magically. Yeah, you can't magically save people unless they, one, want to be, and two, are willing to put in the work.
Yeah. If no one does anything else, I tell them to join the DDP Yoga Facebook group. It's all one word, DDP Yoga. It's a Facebook group, and this is an uber positive and supportive group where people come in, and it's just to being part of the community is amazing. So I encourage you to join the group.
Yeah, I want to check it out. I think I actually did. I started following one of his groups. I don't know if it's that one, but I'll take a look at that. Definitely want to see what's going on, and any way we can also get involved. And heck, the one thing I definitely like too, and it is, you got to try it out yourself too and see, because to be honest with you, I get a lot of people asking for help, and I don't like you. I'm not a fitness professional. I'm not a nutritionist, and I don't mind telling people what I do, but I don't want to give people advice on certain things, and say, oh, you should do this or that, because I don't know what's right for people. And when you try out something like this, I could say, hey, as my buddy Vance told me about this, I checked it out. Looks like a great program. Check it out. So
check it
cool.
out. I encourage it completely. I mean, I encourage people to do it completely. It's unbelievable. But just check out that Facebook group. Just spend some time going through the messages and looking at the people and seeing what it's all about. I mean, if you do that, you'll be hooked. You'll be part of the cult.
Yeah, it's funny too. Back with talking about Joe Rogan, I'm also a fan. I've been listening to a lot of his shows, and I have not tried DMT, so that's just a disclaimer. So I don't have any plans to. That sounds kind of crazy, but some of the stuff they do talk about is interesting. He talks about fasting, which was I listened to one of the folks, and I used to be scared of that, and I've tried it out. And there's a lot of great things that are on there. You learn about it and you try it. And if it doesn't work, then okay, it doesn't work for you. It's okay, And it was something I was thinking about that he mentioned, and the hot yoga. That sounds interesting to me too.
Yeah. Well, I've got two comments to that. There's millions. There's a ton of different ways to lose weight. It's, there's low carb diet, there's all meat diet, there's all veggie diet, there's all this diet. And all of them work in the short term. All of them you change your habits, all of them will make you lose weight. But what you got to do is figure out what you can do long term in your life to sustain, to keep that weight off. I mean, it's something that you're going to have to decide you'll be able to do the rest of your life.
Amen, brother. You just we're on the same wavelength here. You just said exactly where I want. This is the next thing I want to talk about. And I often say a similar kind of thing. It matters least the path you use to get there. Like, I know some people that are considering weight loss surgery, and you probably get the same question. I get a lot of people asking me about that. I have my reasons. And in fact, I'm going to do a podcast. Actually, maybe you and I could talk about that too with people, why we didn't get the surgery, because I'm sure you've got reasons too. I don't even know did you ever consider surgery?
Yeah, I went and conferred with them, and my insurance, but the county doesn't, and it specifically excludes bariatric surgery. I would have done it if they'd paid for it. Yeah, I didn't have any money, and I didn't have any credit to take out a loan. I was desperate I'd given up. I had chased every option I thought I'd had. I thought I was that option.
And yet you chose the one that probably ultimately, And we don't have to get into it today too. I have my own sort of opinions about surgery. Not necessarily bad. I think there are cases, definitely. There are people who really probably should do it. But the whole point is it matters least how you get there. What matters most, and that's what you just said, and I was so excited to hear, is what you do after.
Yeah.
And you're getting close to that point now. You're kind of, and that was an exciting piece of why I wanted to get together and talk with you, is you're kind of getting to that point. I don't know what your goal is, and if you want to talk about that, where you want to kind of, all right, I'm through losing weight, as they say. I have this whole thing about weight too, which is another subject for another time. But you're through kind of reducing or whatever it is, and there's going to be a point of now you got to sustain the rest of your life, and even that's not a straight line.
No.
And I could tell you, I've been doing it for, it's going to be going on my 5th year, and it's, that's a whole other path. And in my opinion, it's been probably more challenging in some ways, not to scare because you're a different person. But for me, it was almost easier to lose the 200 pounds than it is to stay here.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you're going to find. I hope it's different for you. It may be.
No, I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah, because it's easy to slip into your old habits.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to get lazy. It's easy. Well, I typically try not. I don't know about you, but I get I get antsy when I don't exercise. You get used to them after a while. I got to get my. You called. When you called me, I was hiking, and I do that every weekend. I got to do my hikes. Hike with Mike. I don't know if you ever seen my little thing I do, but I love hiking, but you got to think that vision for the future. Now you're thinking. So now you're a couple years older than me, but you want to make it to 60 to 70. But you probably have a vision of yourself at that age. Yeah, I'm still going to be going to the gym, swimming, or maybe you're going to do something else that's a little more adaptive for you that age, right? And I'm happy to hear you're thinking about that because a lot of people don't. They just see A, B, and I'm done.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, my goal, no, it never ends. This is a lifelong journey. But my goal weight is 175. And I'll tell you why I picked that. Because if I make it, I can say I lost 300 pounds. Wow. And I don't know what my ideal weight is on all those books and stuff, but I suspect it's somewhere close to there. So I want to hear my doctor tell me. I want her to tell me to stop losing weight. They've told me to lose weight my whole life. I wanted the doctor to tell me she submits. It's time to quit losing weight.
So that's funny that you say that. So I got down to 194 at my lowest. Okay. We're the same height. And so the stupid charts that I have my own opinions about, we don't have, that's a whole other subject for another day. I'm going to be interviewing some doctors pretty soon too. So we're going to talk about those charts. But I got down to 194 and people were saying, Mike, don't get too skinny. And I'm like, where the hell were you when I was 400 plus pounds?
That's right.
Don't get too skinny?
Yeah, that's right.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's right. Hey,
they might say it to you too, man. They might say it.
I'm sure that everybody, when I tell them 175, they all tell me, "Oh no, no."
Yeah, look at it like
shit. Yeah. I ain't never been skinny. I want to be skinny. I want to see what it feels like. I want.
Get those skinny jeans, right?
That's
right. My gosh. I tell people, I said, every jean's skinny jeans to me.
That's right. I'm wearing 38s. I ain't never worn 38s. Not that I remember.
But you could, yeah. That's so
that's
cool.
tight as hell. I can get them on.
Yeah. I love hearing that, Vance. I mean, that's the thing. I don't think anyone can understand the feeling of being able to just walk in the store and not when you're not able to do it. And it's just like, I want these and I could just get them.
Yeah.
And you're finally in that range. It's like, well, there's tons of 38 jeans, and it's like, wow, I actually have a choice. Like
it's cheaper too.
Oh yeah.
And the clothes are so much cheaper.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Okay, you lost weight similar to me in about a year. What did you do about clothes?
I've been donating them all my fat clothes, and I've just slowly been buying a little bit here, a little bit there. So I've
Oh,
just
okay.
been, yeah. I mean, I've got a few slacks,
Yep.
and I've been going through them. I hadn't spent any serious money because one, I
But
don't have it, but two, I figure, I'm planning on keep going down. So I wear the same thing over and over.
I was buying clothes at like Goodwill and places like that, and that's what I ended up doing. Because once I was able to fit in normal sizes, I started going to the Goodwill and Salvation Army and those stores and buying clothes because I was going. I bought a belt loop puncher, and I wore a belt one time till it went around the back of my back. Because
Yeah,
because you're going to go through so many clothes during this journey. I mean, who can afford? I know you're saying, too, money is a big deal, and it's like clothes are expensive, even in the normal range if you're
yeah.
going through it the way you had been doing too. Because what you said, you were like a six, and what size, like a pant?
6XT,
Yeah, I'm like
58,
a 58.
58,
I
58's the
was
tight.
I was 50. Yeah, me too. I was wearing about a 60. I had a 60 jacket. Yeah, yep.
I'm about a 64 tall jacket.
Have you put it on? Do you have it?
No, I donated them all. I got
How'd
rid
you
of them
wear?
as soon as I get out of
Oh,
them.
okay.
I didn't want
That
to
is
go. I
just,
don't want to go back. I've got rid
well,
of them.
I did the same thing. The only thing I kept was my wedding suit, which I use when I talk. There's actually pictures. I have my 58 pants I was holding on to. But when you put those things on, if you had kept it, it's weird to think that, whoa, this was me. So you didn't keep anything?
There may be some things back there.
If you
I've
don't want
got
to
a big
go,
stack. Yeah, I've got a big stack in my room that hadn't made it to the donation. I just when it's too big, I just throw it in a stack.
I would love
But
to. I wonder what you put on those pants. I hate to mention his name, Jared, but do the Jared with the
yeah,
pants you get in them, and there's
yeah,
like, stand in one pant leg.
yeah. I probably could. I mean, it's been that drastic. I can't. Hell, I'm almost down to buying like large shirts.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's funny you say that. So I don't know if you've seen, I go to a lot of concerts. I'm into heavy metal music, and it was such a thrill to be able to go buy my friends' band's shirts. It's like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh. It's like, oh, you guys don't have large? That's my problem now.
yeah, that's
They only
right.
have X and 2X. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh.
I mean, that's right because I would never buy T-shirts anywhere because they don't have my size here. What if they ain't got my size? I didn't even have to look. Nobody carries 6X
No.
shirts.
Oh my gosh.
I'd have
Yeah.
to have T to cover my belly.
Yep. Yep. So this is cool. I mean, I think we've covered a lot of, the journey. And I'm just trying to think, if you were trying to, somebody came to you and you do get them, when somebody comes to you and they're as big as you were, maybe bigger, do you feel comfortable giving advice? What do you say to people when they say, well, where do I start, Vance?
I tell them to go join that Facebook group, DDP Yoga, and
Okay.
that's the best start
Yep.
anybody could give you. And DDP Yoga is the best program for someone starting out. But I mean, they're going to have to make up their mind. Nobody could tell me to lose weight, and
Yep.
they're going to have to make up their mind. And I'll tell them I'll support them any way I can, and I'll do whatever I can to help you. But you got to make up your mind because ain't
Mhm.
nobody can tell you what to do. I mean, you're going to have to make up your mind. You're going to have to hit that point where something clicks
Yep.
and you decide. And I don't know why it clicked that day watching Bert's video, but and people ask me that all the time. I don't know why it clicked. I mean, I've been in ICU. I mean, but none of that caused me enough to try to lose weight like that. And
But you know what's amazing, Vance, that I'm thinking of right now? Somebody's going to watch this video, somebody's going to listen to this podcast, or they're going to see something else that you did, and you're going to be that guy. And maybe you already are.
that's been the greatest thing
Yep.
for me is
Paying it
people
forward.
reaching out to me and saying, that you're the one that inspired me to get going, and I've lost 40 pounds or I've lost 50 pounds, and
Yep.
it's been unbelievable.
You feel like a hero, right? I mean, you feel like, and he's like, well, I'm just being me.
Yeah, well, you feel some stress too. If I go back now, I'm not only letting myself down, I'm letting them
But
down.
exactly. And so that's part of the reason I went public too later is and why I do this whole shtick, this whole Mike inspires me thing and my hike with Mike and all that is because it keeps me, like you're saying,
Yeah.
I have to do it now because I'll let people down. Sometimes people see, I let them know, said, yeah, this Christmas I was eating my mom's cooking. My mom lives in Southern Virginia. And so, I eat that Southern cooking when I go down there and, biscuits and gravy ain't exactly.
Yeah. No, that's not conducive.
But I let myself loose a little bit. But there's going to be ups and downs, and you have a great attitude about it, and I'm impressed. Just to hear that because I think that's the whole thing. The people you can't take life too serious, yet you got to take your own
rule
life
number
serious.
5. Yeah, you can't abuse rule number 5, man.
All right, let me. You gave me something to live by here.
Yeah, that's right. You can't abuse rule number 5.
Oh my gosh.
Can't take this shit too serious.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Yeah, it's over before you go, it, and I I thank God where I am today too, because I never thought I'd be doing this stuff either. It's bizarre. It's a weird thing, like we talked about being famous for this, but at
Yeah.
the same time, it's so fulfilling to be able to touch lives in ways. So I'm so happy and thank you. I'm so excited that I know you were happy to do this with me, but I was just so thrilled to meet you. I was like, wow, this guy's got some cool stuff going on. But I was like, this is my brother, man. Like
Yeah.
we get each other. We don't
That's
even
right.
know each other, but there's certain things that we've experienced that hopefully many people won't ever experience. Hopefully people won't ever. And that's the other thing, Vance, is to teach people about prevention and not getting there. Let's head this off before you get 400 pounds, because, hey, hello there, Vivi.
That's right.
She wants to, I'm sure she got a little something to say about all this too.
Yeah.
So cool. Well,
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed this conversation, and I'd like us to be able to keep in touch, and maybe we can do some other things to see how people react to this. I think that this has been I don't know if there's anything else you want to say, but I think that we could have other opportunities. Now we got the internet, maybe do a Facebook Live session. Whatever you think, but give people opportunities to kind of ask live, questions that they may never get a chance to ask people. And we'll see. The door's open either way, and I'm just thrilled to meet you. And it was just such a pleasure to kind of hear a little of the inside of your story here.
Well, absolutely. I'm game for anything. My commitment to yes. So if I'm whatever you want to do, I'm game. So
All right, watch out there, brother, because you
yeah.
never know. It's like my wife always says, like, "Oh, I'll do anything," and she's like, "Anything?"
Yeah, that's right.
Uh-oh, that's trouble. That's trouble there. Well,
But
cool. Well, hey, any parting words for folks watching this? Anything,
yeah,
wisdom
I
you want?
mean, I can't give DDP yoga more enough props, and DDP and Steve Yu, the owners, and that's been huge. And Bert Kreischer, I got to give a shout out to him. He's my hero. He started this thing, and he supported me, and he's really helped get my name out there with everything he's done for me. And if you want to see some of the journey, I've got a website and a podcast and a blog, extrausual.com. It's all one word. Since that video's gone viral, I've been neglecting it. I need to get back. I got to get back on it.
It's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've chronicled about 8 months of food, exercises, everything on that blog, and and I I've still got pictures of all my other stuff I've got to upload. So I'm hoping to get back to doing a podcast and get back to updating that blog. And so check out extrausual.com and follow me on all my social media. I'm LawDog1515 on Twitter. I'm Vance_Hinds on Instagram. Doghouse15151515 on YouTube. That wasn't one of my best naming days, by the way. I can't believe there's 3 other Doghouse 15s. But the Vance Wade Hinds on Facebook, and I think that's about it. I've got a Snapchat, but I'm everywhere on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere on social media.
Yeah, that's right. We're gonna find you one way or another. Otherwise, come down to what's that down there?
Waxahachie.
Come down and see.
Waxahachie, yeah.
Waxahachie. Well, Vance, thank you so much. This has been it's just been real good. Stick around after I stop recording. Just want to chat real quick. But hey, buddy, as I say, and you've heard me say, you got to stay awesome. I just love it. I love you, man. You're just a great guy. All right.
Thank you. All right, Mike. I appreciate you doing this, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy. All right, stick on here.
All right.